Hey everyone, Pop Daddy here. The wait is finally over and Ghostbusters Afterlife has been released. And what did I think of it? Well, I will share that with you, what I liked, what I didn't like, and I'll go from there. And so thank you for joining me. Um, so tonight I didn't really take any notes down. I didn't write a pre-written script like I did for Eternals or for Home Sweet Home Alone. I thought I'd go a little off the cuff and just give you some fresh thoughts, what I thought, what I liked, what I didn't like, and we can go from there. First things first, baby is currently at 22 weeks, so they are currently the size of a Vaultec Pit Boy from the Fallout games. So that should give you an accurate size of how big the baby is currently. And so, without further ado, I will give you my thoughts on the new Ghostbusters movie. Now, growing up, my first real property, franchise, whatever you call that, I liked was the Ghostbusters movies. Because when you're a kid and you get scared of things that go bump in the night, you're going to find yourself liking things that bump back. So, even though the first Ghostbusters isn't really a kids movie, kids latched onto that. They, with the proton packs and the toys and the cartoon. I loved the cartoon, by the way, and so I grew up loving Ghostbusters. So where the first movie became a sci-fi comedy with some good one-liners, the second one took a note from the cartoon, became a you know darker and more comedic at the same time. So that's why growing up, the second one was always my favorite. But then as I got a little older, I learned to really love the first one, and that brought us to a long stretch between, will they make a third one? Will they not? I'm skipping over a lot of Ghostbusters history. And they eventually sort of did in 2009 with the video game, which I actually played a little bit of tonight, and it still holds up pretty well. It's great seeing the guys back together for that, and great hearing them all together. After that came the 2016 version, and while not a bad movie, it certainly had a lot of opportunity to be better. I'm more of a fan of the spooky sci-fi with some good one-liners and comedic moments, as opposed to the non-stop comedy and things like that the 2016 movie tried to bring us. And that brings us to tonight with Ghostbusters Afterlife, where it takes place. This doesn't seem like it's a. Seems like a straight up follow up to the first movie. They don't even mention anything from the second, which is kind of weird, but I didn't mind. And let me get this out of the way first. This is straight up nostalgia candy. So if you grew up with the Ghostbusters, the toys, the cartoon, loving the movies, this is definitely a movie for you. This one goes right for the nostalgia and gets you that warm, fuzzy feeling inside, which I loved. Seeing as I've always pretty much been a huge Ghostbusters fan, and I loved it. Um, Basic plot of the story is Egon's family, his daughter and her two children, moved to a farm in the middle of nowhere that Egon was apparently living in, trying to keep a watch over something, but it's never really clear until later in the movie. And so we're kind of in the dark early on. But you have the family, you have the mom, you have the son Trevor, who's played by Finn Wolfhard from The Stranger Things, and then you have the daughter Phoebe, who is the main character of the movie. And right away, she's like, oh, she's good at tinkering, she's good at science stuff. So they set her up to be the smart one, like Egon was. And through that, meet other characters. She meets a friend named Podcast, who, when he first comes on screen, I assumed he was going to be a little too much. He wasn't that bad though. He was just enough. There's Mr. Goober Smooch. I just saw the movie. I forget his name. Played delightfully by Paul Rudd, who was acting his usual Paul Rudd self. I loved him. And then she finds out through him that her grandfather was a Ghostbuster, and she seems like the type that isn't really good at making friends, doesn't really know what she wants to do, and he like tells her all this, and she realizes, what her grandfather was doing and things like that. And there's a lot of practical effects, a lot of ghost chasing, things like that, things that you'll see, and you'll be like, oh, point out, like, this is just like this is just like that, and so on. So that stuff's kind of neat. That's the stuff like I love. Like when it comes to Ghostbusters movies, the original one is a great movie, but I like the busting, the traps, the ghosts, the gear, things like that. The second one in 2016 do that very well, whereas the first one and this one don't do it too well. But when it comes to my favorite movies, the top two are the original and this one. I would definitely put this in my top two for Ghostbusters movies. That being said, the score is definitely the old timey sounding piano score that they used a lot in the first one, which I was all on board for. There were some new segments which sounded like they could have been ripped straight from the original, and I wouldn't have known. Then you get to the soundtrack. There isn't really a physical soundtrack. There's some old songs, but like old timey 50s and 60s songs, but things like that are just for certain scenes. There are a lot of non-Ghostbuster scenes, like Finn Wolfhard's Trevor character. Like part of the movie, like sometimes cuts back to him, and it feels like it just cuts back to him because it has to, because he's there, and like he meets a girl named Lucky. He works at a burger place, and things like that. It's like seems like the movie only included them to have more footage with him, or just to give him some type of story, because it really feels like he has a hard time latching onto the story. And I kind of understand that because you have Phoebe with her podcast and Mr. Ant-Man subplot going on. Then Mr. Ant-Man's trying to romanticize the mom, things like that. And the third act of the movie comes around, sort of goes into, the usual territory. I remember at one part in the movies, like something clicked, and I was like, okay, I know what's going to happen now. It's where if you're a Ghostbusters fan, if you're a fan of the original one, you'll see what's coming. You'll know what's going on. There are lots of cameos. There are a ton of Easter eggs. So if you're a Ghostbusters fan from the old school, you'll point out things. You'll be like, oh, I remember this from that. Oh, look what they did there. I remember that. And like once again, it's straight up fan service. And so if you're not too into Ghostbusters, you may not like this as much. One thing that I've been seeing a lot of people say, and I'm more inclined to agree with them, due to the Wolf Finhard and the younger kids in the cast. This seems more like it's geared to a younger audience, whereas the original movie was more like a grown-up comedy. And I would honestly say, if I were to introduce my child to Ghostbusters through a way that wasn't the cartoon, I would actually show them this movie first and build up from that, because this references the first movie a lot, so it might be cool to see them start with this movie, then later show them the original to see what happened. But that's me. Final verdict for this one, I give it an A solid A. A couple things could have been done better. Didn't hate it too much. I didn't hate it at all. I don't know why I said that, but I really, really liked this movie. Date night, I'd say go check it out. Moviegoer, check it out. Kids, definitely see it. Take the whole family. Bring them along. The kids will love it. If they love Ghostbusters, they'll love this movie. If you love Ghostbusters, you will love this movie. This is a love letter to the fans. And also, the way they do stuff with Egon is really, really nice. So yeah, check it out. See it. And I'll actually, if you want to stop the video right here, I will delve into a little bit of spoilers. Probably about 30 seconds or so. So, go see it. Spoiler-wise, it was great seeing the guys together again. When Phoebe tells Ray, there's a scene where Phoebe's in jail and she only has one call. And she calls the old Ghostbusters number because she saw the commercial on YouTube. she uses that one phone call to call the number, and she calls Ray, and she talks to him, and she gives him the news that Egon is dead, and he genuinely seems sad. And I'm gonna admit I got a little emotional there too. Also, this movie definitely kicks you right in the feels, and it's great seeing all the guys together again, all the guys together again. And if you grew up with the Busters, there won't be a dry eye in the house. Like I said, check it out. I liked it. I think you will too if you like the Busters. And enjoy. Peace.